On a freezing morning, a baby is abandoned on the dangerous tracks of a train. What no one could have imagined was that a bear would appear out of nowhere, and what it did next left everyone in shock. In the heart of Virginia's Blue Ridge Mountains, where ancient peaks touched the morning sky, the stillness of dawn was broken by a sound that seemed out of place in the wilderness. The faint cry of an abandoned baby. The weak whimpers echoed through the misty air, barely audible against the backdrop of the sleeping forest and the towering cliffs that surrounded the area. If this story caught your attention, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give it a like. Let us know which city you're watching us from. Let's keep going. The infant lay wrapped in a worn blanket beside a decommissioned railway line, vulnerable to the crisp mountain air. The morning fog rolled in thick waves across the ground, partially obscuring the small bundle from view. The baby's cries, though weak, carried on the wind, reaching into the depths of the surrounding wilderness. In the nearby forest, a peculiar resident lifted his snout to the air. Smokey, a black bear who had spent years in an environmental preservation program, caught an unfamiliar scent. Unlike most of his wild counterparts, Smokey's past was uniquely intertwined with humans. For years, he had served as a symbol of wildlife protection campaigns, trained to interact safely with people, before being released back into his natural habitat. Despite returning to the wild, Smokey retained the curiosity and understanding that had been instilled in him during his time in the preservation program. His massive form moved with surprising grace through the underbrush as he followed the strange scent, his instincts pulling him toward the abandoned railway line. Meanwhile, veteran forest ranger Caleb Morgan patrolled the area in his weathered Jeep. The morning light filtered through the trees, casting dappled shadows across the vehicle's faded paint. Caleb's connection to these mountains ran deep, forged through years of protecting its delicate ecosystem. His devotion to preserving the balance of nature had become more than a job. It was his path to healing from the profound loss of his child years ago. As Caleb navigated the familiar turns of his morning route, something caught his attention. Through the trees, he spotted Smokey's distinctive form, moving with unusual purpose. Having worked in these mountains for years, Caleb knew the bear's history and recognized that something was different about his behavior this morning. The ranger's trained eye followed Smokey's movement, noting how the bear seemed drawn to something beyond the tree line. With careful precision, Caleb maintained a safe distance while tracking the bear's path. The fog parted occasionally, revealing glimpses of the old railway line ahead. In the distance, a sound began to build, the rhythmic rumble of an approaching train. This was unusual. The line had been decommissioned years ago. Caleb's radio crackled with urgent information. A landslide had blocked the main railway line, forcing the use of this old track as an emergency route. More disturbing was the news that the train carried dangerous chemical materials. The situation grew more complex as Caleb approached the railway line. Through the clearing mist, he witnessed a scene that stopped him in his tracks. Smokey, the former ambassador of wildlife protection, standing near a small bundle that was clearly out of place in this wilderness setting. The bear's behavior was unlike anything Caleb had seen before, protective rather than predatory. The morning stillness shattered as the baby's cries grew stronger, carrying clearly through the mountain air. The sound drew not only Smokey's attention, but also attracted a pack of hungry coyotes that began to emerge from the forest's edge. Their lean forms slipped through the shadows, moving closer to the vulnerable infant. Caleb watched in amazement as Smokey positioned himself between the coyotes and the baby, his massive form a deterrent to the smaller predators. The bear's behavior confirmed what Caleb had always believed about the connection between humans and wildlife, that compassion could cross the boundaries between species. The ranger's hand moved to his radio as the train's rumble grew louder. He knew he needed help, and quickly. The residents of Blue Ridge Hollow would have to come together if they were to prevent an impending disaster. As he prepared to make the call, Caleb realized that this morning would test not only his skills as a ranger, but also his belief in the power of unity between humans and nature. The fog continued to swirl around the scene, creating an almost mystical atmosphere as nature and civilization converged at this crucial moment. The baby's cries, Smokey's protective stance, the approaching train, and the circling coyotes all formed a tableau that would soon draw the entire community into an extraordinary tale of survival and connection. In the solitude of her mountain home, Sarah Harper's quiet morning routine was interrupted by the urgent crackle of her emergency radio. The former railway engineer had lived alone since her husband's passing, finding solace in the peaceful rhythms of Blue Ridge Hollow. But today, Caleb Morgan's voice through the radio speaker would change everything. "Emergency broadcast to all Blue Ridge Hollow residents." Caleb's voice carried a gravity that made Sarah sit up straight. "We have a critical situation near the old railway line. We need immediate assistance, especially from anyone with railway experience. This is not a drill." The mention of the old railway line sent a jolt through Sarah's body. Those tracks had been her life for decades before retirement. She knew every curve, every grade, every potential hazard along those steel rails. When Caleb's voice came through again, explaining about the chemical transport train being diverted due to a landslide, her engineering instincts kicked into high gear. Without hesitation, Sarah grabbed her old work jacket, the one still bearing the railway company's emblem. In its pockets, she found her signal flags and emergency tools, equipment she'd never had the heart to dispose of. Her hands moved with muscle memory over the familiar objects as she headed for her truck. The community was already stirring. Lights flickered on in distant homes as more residents received Caleb's call. Sarah's truck engine roared to life, and she navigated the familiar mountain roads with purpose. Her mind raced through possible scenarios, calculating grades and speeds, knowing that an unprepared train on these neglected tracks could spell disaster. As she drove, Sarah's radio continued to relay updates. The situation was growing more complex by the minute. Caleb's voice returned, this time with news that made her press harder on the accelerator. There was an abandoned baby near the tracks, and remarkably, a black bear named Smokey was somehow involved in the situation. Other vehicles began appearing on the mountain roads, pickup trucks, jeeps, and various machinery that might prove useful. The people of Blue Ridge Hollow were responding to the call, each bringing whatever resources they could muster. Sarah recognized many of them: the hardware store owner with his truck full of tools, the construction foreman with heavy equipment, all converging on the old railway line. Sarah's expertise made her a natural leader in this crisis. As she arrived at the staging area, people turned to her for guidance. Her years of experience were evident in every decisive command she issued. "We need to create a barrier," she announced, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had handled rail emergencies before. "Something substantial enough to slow the train without causing a derailment." The community sprang into action. Trucks were positioned strategically, their beds being filled with anything that could help create a controlled deceleration zone. Sarah directed the placement of logs, rocks, and other materials, creating a carefully calculated sequence of barriers. Through the morning mist, they could hear the distant sound of the train, growing stronger with each passing moment. Sarah knew they were racing against time. The old manual signal still standing along the track caught her eye, a relic from her working days that might yet serve a purpose. While coordinating the barrier construction, Sarah kept receiving updates about the situation near the baby. The presence of Smokey, the former preservation program bear, added an extraordinary dimension to the unfolding drama. The bear's protective behavior toward the infant defied conventional wisdom, yet somehow seemed to embody the spirit of unity that was bringing the whole community together. The fog began to lift slightly, revealing the full scope of their impromptu operation. Vehicles were parked at strategic points, their headlights cutting through the remaining mist. Community members moved with purpose, following Sarah's experienced guidance. The old railway line, which had laid dormant for so long, was now the center of intense activity. Sarah made her way to the manual signal, her hands remembering the familiar mechanism. Years of rust had accumulated on the lever, but she knew these old systems were built to last. With determined effort, she began working to get the signal operational, knowing it might be their best chance to alert the train's engineer to the danger ahead. The morning air filled with the sounds of urgent activity, the scrape of materials being moved, the calls of people coordinating their efforts, and underneath it all the growing rumble of the approaching train. Sarah could feel the vibrations through the ground, reading them like a language she had never forgotten. Time was running out, and the success of their efforts would soon be tested. The sound of the approaching train grew louder, echoing off the mountain walls as Caleb watched Smokey's protective stance intensify. The black bear's massive form created a living barrier between the crying infant and the increasingly bold pack of coyotes. Years of working with humans had given Smokey an unusual instinct, one that now seemed to transcend the natural order of the wilderness. Through the thinning morning mist, Caleb could see the coyotes circling closer, their lean forms moving like shadows through the underbrush. The baby's cries had grown stronger, perhaps sensing the mounting tension in the air. Smokey responded to each movement of the predators with calculated shifts in position, his training in human interaction having created an unprecedented alliance. The radio at Caleb's belt crackled with updates from Sarah Harper's team. The community's response had been swift, but the challenge ahead was immense. The old tracks, neglected for years, were never meant to handle a chemical transport train. Each update about the train's approach made the situation more urgent. The engineer was struggling with failing brakes, and the morning fog was severely limiting visibility. Caleb's experience as a forest ranger had taught him to read animal behavior, and what he witnessed now defied everything he knew. Smokey, moving with deliberate care, attempted to approach the infant. The bear's movements were cautious, almost gentle, a stark contrast to his intimidating displays toward the coyotes. Suddenly, a log shifted under Smokey's weight as he tried to move closer to the baby. The unexpected movement startled both the bear and the coyotes. In that moment of chaos, Caleb knew he had to act. Drawing on years of experience in wildlife management, he began moving forward, making his presence known while maintaining a careful balance between authority and non-threatening behavior. "Easy, big fellow," Caleb called out, his voice steady and calm. The words were less important than the tone, something both humans and animals could understand. Smokey's head turned toward him, recognition flickering in the bear's eyes. Their shared history in these mountains created an unspoken understanding. The vibrations from the approaching train were now unmistakable, sending small stones skittering along the old tracks. Time was running out. Caleb could hear the community's efforts through his radio. Sarah's experienced voice directing the creation of emergency barriers, the sounds of machinery and materials being moved into position. In a display of extraordinary behavior, Smokey began to back away from the infant, making space for Caleb to approach. The coyotes, confused by this unusual alliance between man and bear, retreated further into the tree line. The bear's presence remained protective, but now it was focused on keeping the predators at bay while allowing Caleb to reach the child. The morning air grew thick with tension as Caleb carefully made his way forward. Each step was measured, his movements slow and deliberate. The baby's cries had softened to whimpers, as if sensing the delicate nature of the moment. Through his radio, he could hear Sarah's voice announcing that the train was now visible around the distant bend. Smokey's behavior continued to amaze Caleb. The bear maintained his protective circle, moving in perfect synchronization with Caleb's approach. Years of ranger experience had taught Caleb to expect the unexpected in nature. But this level of cooperation between species was unprecedented. Finally reaching the infant, Caleb knelt down, his hands gentle as he assessed the situation. The baby was cold but alert, the worn blanket having provided minimal protection against the mountain air. Above the sound of the approaching train, Caleb could hear Sarah coordinating the final preparations for their impromptu barrier. The ground began to tremble more violently as the train drew nearer. Through the thinning fog, Caleb could see the distant flash of its headlight, a bright beacon of approaching danger. The moment of truth was fast approaching, and they needed to move quickly. But with Smokey still actively guarding against the lingering threat of the coyotes, their retreat needed to be carefully coordinated. Time seemed to compress as Caleb cradled the infant in his arms. The old tracks groaned under the weight of the approaching train, a sound that echoed through the mountain valley like a warning. Through his radio, he could hear Sarah's voice, tense but controlled, as she prepared to implement their last-chance plan to slow the train. The early morning air crackled with tension as Sarah Harper raced against time at the manual signal station. Her experienced hands worked the ancient mechanism, years of rust giving way to determined effort. Every second counted as the train's rumble grew stronger, its vibrations traveling through the old tracks like a warning. The makeshift barrier the community had built stretched across the tracks, a carefully orchestrated arrangement of logs, rocks, and even vehicles, all positioned according to Sarah's expert calculations. The fog had lifted enough to reveal the full scope of their emergency response, with community members standing ready at their designated positions. Through her radio, Sarah could hear Caleb's updates about the situation with Smokey and the baby. The bear's continued protective behavior had allowed Caleb to secure the infant, but they weren't safe yet. The train's headlight was now visible through the diminishing mist, its beam cutting through the morning like a sword. Sarah's focus remained on the signal mechanism. This was their best chance to alert the train's engineer. Her knowledge of the old railway system told her that even this outdated equipment could make a difference. With one final heave, the mechanism jerked into position, the ancient gears protesting but finally cooperating. The signal light flickered to life, its red warning barely visible in the brightening day, but unmistakable to any trained engineer. Sarah's heart pounded as she watched the train approach, its speed still dangerously high for these neglected tracks. The sound of straining metal and failing brakes echoed off the mountain walls. Back near the original discovery site, Caleb held the infant close as Smokey continued his vigilant guard against the retreating coyotes. The bear's massive form moved with surprising agility, ensuring their path to safety remained clear. The ground trembled beneath their feet as the train bore down on their position. The community's barrier was their last line of defense. Sarah had positioned everything strategically, using her years of experience to create a sequence that would slow the train without causing a catastrophic derailment. The chemical cargo made the stakes impossibly high. Any mistake could result in an environmental disaster. As the train entered the final curve, Sarah could see the engineer fighting with the controls. The old signal had done its job. They were trying to stop, but the combination of speed and failing brakes made it a desperate struggle. The screech of metal on metal filled the valley as the train began to hit the first sections of their makeshift barrier. Smokey, seemingly understanding the gravity of the situation, made one final protective move. The bear positioned himself between the tracks and Caleb, who was still cradling the infant. Together they retreated to a safe distance, the bear's instincts and human training creating an unprecedented alliance in this moment of crisis. The impact of the train hitting their barrier sent shockwaves through the ground. Sarah watched with professional intensity as each layer of their defense did its job, gradually bleeding speed from the massive machine. The sound was deafening, wood splintering, metal groaning, and the persistent screech of emergency brakes. Debris scattered across the area as the train continued its battle against momentum. The community members held their positions, each person trusting in Sarah's expertise and the strength of their collective effort. The morning light now fully illuminated the scene, revealing the full scope of their emergency response. Through it all, Smokey remained steadfast in his protective role, his presence a remarkable testament to the connection between humans and wildlife. The bear's behavior had transcended natural instincts, contributing to a rescue that would have seemed impossible under normal circumstances. The train's speed continued to decrease as it pushed through the final sections of the barrier. Sarah's calculations proved accurate. The emergency structure was holding, directing the train's energy in a controlled manner. The screech of brakes began to diminish as the train finally, mercifully, began to approach a stop. Steam hissed from the train's brakes as it ground to a final halt, the morning air thick with the smell of heated metal and wood. The silence that followed seemed almost surreal after the chaos of the previous moments. Sarah released a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding, her hands still gripping the signal mechanism that had played such a crucial role. Through the settling dust and debris, she could see Caleb emerging from their safe position, the infant secure in his arms. Smokey's dark form moved alongside them, still maintaining his protective vigil even as the immediate danger passed. The community members began to emerge from their positions, their faces showing a mixture of relief and disbelief at what they had just accomplished. In the aftermath of the near disaster, the morning sun finally broke through the mountain mist, illuminating a scene that would forever be etched in the memory of Blue Ridge Hollow. The train stood silent now, its emergency stop a testament to the community's extraordinary effort and Sarah's railway expertise. Steam still rose from the tracks, mixing with the remaining wisps of fog. Caleb stood at a safe distance, the infant now wrapped more securely in emergency blankets provided by first responders who had arrived at the scene. The baby had settled into a peaceful sleep, seemingly unaware of the drama that had unfolded around them. Nearby, Smokey maintained his vigilant presence, though the coyotes had long since retreated into the deeper forest. The bear's behavior continued to captivate everyone present. His protective instincts, honed through years in the preservation program, had transcended typical wildlife behavior. As emergency personnel and community members moved about the scene, Smokey remained calm, his previous training evident in his measured responses to human activity. Sarah made her way through the scattered debris from their makeshift barrier, her experienced eye assessing the aftermath. The old tracks had held, despite years of disuse, and their emergency measures had worked exactly as intended. The chemical transport train's cargo remained secure, averting what could have been an environmental catastrophe. The news of what had transpired spread quickly through the mountain community. Residents who hadn't been part of the initial response began arriving, offering help with cleanup and supporting emergency crews. The spirit of unity that had made the rescue possible now transformed into a collective effort to restore order to the scene. Local authorities arrived to begin their investigation into how the baby had ended up alongside the tracks. Caleb, still holding the infant, shared his observations with them, emphasizing the remarkable role Smokey had played in the rescue. The bear's actions would later become a centerpiece of the unfolding story. As the morning progressed, Sarah found herself surrounded by grateful community members. Her railway experience had proved invaluable, but she deflected praise, pointing instead to the collective effort that had made the rescue successful. The old signal station, which she had managed to activate just in time, stood as a testament to her years of dedication to railway safety. Medical personnel carefully examined the infant, finding them to be healthy despite their ordeal. The community's immediate concern turned to ensuring the baby's well-being and future care. Already, offers of support were pouring in from residents touched by the extraordinary circumstances of the rescue. Smokey, having fulfilled his protective role, began to retreat toward the forest edge. His movement was unhurried, almost dignified, as if aware of the significance of what had transpired. Caleb and several wildlife officials watched with profound respect as the bear disappeared into the undergrowth, his black form melting into the shadows of his mountain home. The story of the morning's events began to take shape as news crews arrived at the scene. The combination of elements, an abandoned infant, a protective bear, a dangerous train, and a community's unified response, captured immediate attention. Sarah found herself explaining the technical aspects of their emergency response, while Caleb shared the incredible details of Smokey's intervention. Throughout the day, the people of Blue Ridge Hollow worked together to clear the tracks and restore order to the area. The spirit of cooperation that had made the rescue possible continued to strengthen the bonds between neighbors. What had started as a potential tragedy had transformed into a powerful demonstration of community resilience and the unexpected connections between humans and wildlife. The infant, temporarily nicknamed the Railway Baby by emergency responders, became a symbol of hope and unity for the community. Plans were already being made to ensure the child's safety and care, with several local families stepping forward to offer support. The story of their rescue would become a testament to the extraordinary things possible when people come together in times of crisis. As the day progressed, wildlife officials began monitoring Smokey's movements in the forest, noting how the bear had returned to his normal patterns while remaining in the general area. His actions during the rescue would later become the subject of scientific interest, offering new insights into the capabilities of rehabilitated wildlife and the complex relationships between humans and animals. The chemical transport company's officials arrived to assess the situation and express their gratitude for the community's quick action. The potential environmental disaster that had been averted added another layer to the already remarkable story. Sarah's expertise and the community's response would later influence new safety protocols for emergency rail diversions. By late afternoon, the immediate crisis had passed, but its impact on Blue Ridge Hollow was just beginning to unfold. The day's events had revealed something powerful about the connection between the community members and their mountain home, including its wild inhabitants. A new chapter in the town's history had been written, one that would inspire and unite generations to come. The days following the dramatic rescue at Blue Ridge Hollow brought unprecedented attention to the quiet mountain community. News outlets from across the nation descended upon the small town, drawn by the extraordinary tale of a protective bear, a brave ranger, a skilled former railway engineer, and a community that came together to save an abandoned infant. Sarah Harper found herself becoming an unexpected spokesperson for railway safety. Her expertise and quick thinking had played a crucial role in preventing what could have been a catastrophic accident. Television crews set up their equipment near her mountain cabin, eager to capture her perspective on the events that had unfolded that foggy morning. The story of Smokey, the preservation program bear, captured particular interest. Wildlife experts and researchers began studying the incident, fascinated by the bear's unusual protective behavior. The footage captured on Caleb's Ranger camera provided valuable insight into the potential for positive human-wildlife interactions, challenging traditional assumptions about wild animal behavior. The infant, now officially named Jonah by the community, became a symbol of hope and unity. Local families had come forward, each offering to provide a loving home. The name choice seemed fitting. Like the biblical figure, this Jonah had emerged safely from what could have been a tragic fate, thanks to an extraordinary series of events and unlikely allies. Environmental organizations seized upon the story as a powerful example of conservation success. Smokey's background in their preservation program demonstrated the value of wildlife rehabilitation and education. His actions that morning became a cornerstone of campaigns promoting responsible wildlife management and the importance of maintaining natural habitats. Blue Ridge Hollow itself began to transform. What had once been a quiet mountain town now found itself at the center of a national conversation about community, conservation, and the unexpected ways in which humans and nature could work together. The old railway line, once forgotten, became a point of interest, with discussions emerging about converting parts of it into a memorial trail. Sarah found a new purpose in the aftermath. Her years of solitude following her husband's passing gave way to active involvement in the community. She began leading initiatives to improve railway safety across the region, sharing her expertise with other mountain communities facing similar challenges with aging infrastructure. The story's impact rippled through various sectors. Railway companies started reviewing their emergency protocols, particularly regarding the use of decommissioned tracks. Environmental groups highlighted the importance of wildlife preservation programs, using Smokey's actions as evidence of their value. Community organizations pointed to Blue Ridge Hollow as a model of local resilience and cooperation. Local artists and craftspeople began creating works inspired by the events. Paintings and sculptures depicting Smokey's protective stance near the railway tracks appeared in galleries. Children's books telling simplified versions of the story were drafted, each emphasizing the themes of community, courage, and the special bond between humans and nature. Caleb's role as a forest ranger took on new significance. His years of experience and understanding of wildlife behavior had proved crucial in those tense moments. Young people in the community, inspired by his actions, showed increased interest in conservation careers. His regular patrols now often included educational components, teaching visitors about wildlife behavior and environmental protection. The coyotes that had been present that morning became part of the larger narrative about ecosystem balance. Wildlife experts used the incident to educate the public about predator behavior and the importance of maintaining natural hierarchies in the wild. The presence of these animals added another layer to the complex story of survival and coexistence. Tourism to Blue Ridge Hollow increased, though the community worked to manage it sustainably. Visitors came hoping to glimpse Smokey in his natural habitat or to see the railway line where the remarkable rescue had taken place. Local businesses adapted thoughtfully, developing ways to share their story while preserving the peaceful character of their mountain home. Each new day brought letters and messages from people touched by the story. Some shared their own tales of unlikely rescues or animal encounters. Others expressed how the events at Blue Ridge Hollow had restored their faith in community spirit and the possibility of harmony between humans and wildlife. The story seemed to tap into a universal desire for connection and hope. As autumn approached, bringing a new palette of colors to the mountain landscape, Blue Ridge Hollow settled into its enhanced role as a symbol of community resilience and environmental harmony. The events of that foggy morning had not only saved a life, but had also awakened something powerful in the collective consciousness of the town and its visitors. As the story of Blue Ridge Hollow's extraordinary rescue spread, Sarah Harper found herself at the forefront of a movement she had never anticipated. The retired railway engineer, who had once sought solitude in her mountain home, now led community initiatives that brought people together in ways she hadn't imagined possible. The most significant of these was a new safety education program she developed, combining her railway expertise with environmental awareness. Local schools invited her to speak, where she shared not just the technical aspects of railway safety, but also the importance of community cooperation in times of crisis. Students listened intently as she described how the entire town had mobilized that foggy morning. Environmental groups regularly visited Blue Ridge Hollow to study the unique dynamics between the community and its wildlife residents. Smokey's continued presence in the area, though now returned to his natural patterns, served as a living testament to successful wildlife rehabilitation. Scientists documented his behavior, noting how he maintained a respectful distance while still showing signs of his unique understanding of human interaction. The railway line where Jonah had been found transformed into a symbol of hope. The community worked together to create a small memorial garden nearby, with native plants and educational plaques telling their story. The site became a quiet place of reflection, where visitors could learn about the power of unity between humans and nature. Caleb Morgan's role evolved as well. His forest ranger duties now included regular educational tours, where he shared his expertise about wildlife behavior and conservation. Young people were particularly drawn to his stories about Smokey and the rescue, inspiring a new generation of environmental stewards. The connection between wildlife protection and community safety became a central theme in his teachings. The impact on Blue Ridge Hollow's sense of community was profound. Regular gatherings began taking place, where residents shared their perspectives on that remarkable morning. These meetings evolved into community planning sessions, where ideas for sustainable development and wildlife protection were discussed with newfound enthusiasm. Sarah's expertise proved invaluable as the town developed new emergency response protocols. Her understanding of both railway operations and mountain terrain helped create comprehensive safety plans that other communities began to adopt. The old signal station that had played such a crucial role in the rescue was preserved as both a historical landmark and a reminder of the importance of maintaining emergency systems. The story of baby Jonah continued to touch hearts across the nation. The local family who had welcomed him into their home became advocates for child welfare and community responsibility. Their experience highlighted how a single act of coming together could change not just one life, but an entire community's perspective on caring for its most vulnerable members. Wildlife officials noted positive changes in how local residents interacted with their natural environment. The presence of Smokey had helped people understand that coexistence with wildlife was possible when approached with respect and understanding. Even the coyotes, once seen as mere threats, were now recognized as important parts of the mountain ecosystem. Blue Ridge Hollow's transformation extended to its economic life as well. Local businesses began incorporating elements of environmental responsibility into their operations. The hardware store that had provided materials for the emergency barrier now specialized in environmentally friendly building supplies. Restaurants sourced local ingredients, connecting the community more deeply to its natural surroundings. Sarah found herself spending more time mentoring young people interested in railway engineering and environmental protection. Her experience had shown how technical knowledge and natural awareness could work together. She shared not just her engineering expertise, but also her newfound understanding of how communities could unite to protect both human life and wildlife. The old railway line, though still decommissioned, became part of a larger conservation corridor. Plans were developed to transform sections of it into a nature trail, where visitors could learn about the region's railway history while experiencing the natural beauty that had played such a crucial role in their story. As autumn painted the mountains in brilliant colors, Blue Ridge Hollow had become more than just a small mountain town. It was now a living example of how crisis could forge stronger bonds between people and their environment. The story of a baby's rescue had blossomed into a lasting legacy of community unity and environmental stewardship. Through it all, Smokey remained a constant presence in the mountain forests, his occasional appearances reminding everyone of the extraordinary events that had brought their community together. His story, intertwined with that of an abandoned infant and a determined community, continued to inspire visitors from across the country who came to learn about the day when nature and humanity had worked as one. The impact of Blue Ridge Hollow's extraordinary rescue continued to spread far beyond the mountain community. What had begun as a local story of survival had evolved into a national conversation about the relationship between communities, wildlife, and environmental preservation. Sarah Harper's railway safety program gained recognition from transportation authorities across the country. Her unique approach, combining technical expertise with environmental awareness, became a model for other communities facing similar challenges with aging infrastructure. Railway companies sought her input on developing new emergency protocols, particularly for tracks running through wildlife-rich areas. The scientific community's interest in Smokey's behavior led to groundbreaking research in animal cognition and rehabilitation. Wildlife experts studied footage from that crucial morning, analyzing how his previous human interaction had influenced his protective response toward the infant. His case became a cornerstone in discussions about wildlife rehabilitation and release programs. Back in Blue Ridge Hollow, the community continued to evolve. The old railway station, once a symbol of the past, was transformed into an educational center. Here, visitors could learn about railway history, wildlife conservation, and the remarkable events that had brought them together. Interactive displays showed how the community had worked together to prevent disaster that foggy morning. Caleb Morgan's Forest Ranger programs expanded to include regular workshops for other wildlife management professionals. His experience with Smokey provided valuable insights into how rehabilitated animals could maintain their wild nature while retaining positive associations with humans. Young rangers from across the country came to learn from his unique perspective. The story of baby Jonah touched hearts in unexpected ways. Child welfare organizations pointed to Blue Ridge Hollow as an example of how communities could come together to protect their most vulnerable members. The family who had welcomed him found themselves advocating for stronger community involvement in child protection and support systems. Environmental organizations used Blue Ridge Hollow's story to promote conservation efforts nationwide. The successful integration of wildlife preservation with community safety became a model for other rural areas. Smokey's role in the rescue highlighted the importance of maintaining natural habitats while fostering respectful human-wildlife relationships. Local businesses thrived as Blue Ridge Hollow became known for its unique approach to community development. The town's commitment to environmental stewardship attracted eco-conscious visitors and entrepreneurs. New businesses opened that centered around sustainable tourism and education, creating opportunities while preserving the area's natural beauty. Sarah found herself traveling to other mountain communities, sharing her expertise and the lessons learned from that memorable morning. Her presentations always emphasized the importance of maintaining emergency systems, even on abandoned infrastructure. The old manual signal that had helped save lives became a powerful symbol in her teachings. The transformation of the railway line into a nature trail progressed thoughtfully. Sections were preserved to tell the story of the rescue, while others were restored to their natural state. Educational stations along the trail helped visitors understand both the historical significance of the railway and the delicate balance of mountain ecosystems. Throughout these changes, Smokey remained a beloved figure in the community. Though he stayed true to his wild nature, his occasional appearances near the trail seemed almost purposeful, as if checking on the community he had helped unite. Wildlife officials monitored his movements with respect, using his success story to promote responsible wildlife management. The coyotes that had been present that morning became part of a larger educational narrative about predator-prey relationships and ecosystem balance. Rather than being viewed as threats, they were now understood as essential members of the mountain's wildlife community. Their role in the story helped visitors understand the complexity of natural systems. As news outlets continued to follow Blue Ridge Hollow's evolution, they found a community that had been profoundly changed by crisis, but emerged stronger. The town's response to potential tragedy had created lasting bonds between neighbors and a deeper appreciation for their natural environment. The impact on younger generations was particularly notable. Children in Blue Ridge Hollow grew up understanding the importance of both community cooperation and wildlife preservation. School programs integrated lessons from their town's experience, creating a new generation of environmentally conscious citizens. The story's influence reached into unexpected areas. Urban planners studied how Blue Ridge Hollow had balanced development with environmental protection. Emergency response teams incorporated lessons about community mobilization and improvisation. Conservation groups pointed to the town as an example of successful human-wildlife coexistence. As autumn painted the Blue Ridge Mountains in brilliant hues, Sarah Harper stood before a group of eager students at the newly established Community Environmental Center. The converted railway station, once a silent reminder of the past, now buzzed with activity as she shared her expertise on railway safety and environmental preservation. The center had become Sarah's new purpose, a way to channel her years of engineering experience into something that would benefit future generations. Her isolation following her husband's passing had given way to a life filled with meaningful connections and daily opportunities to make a difference in her community. Under Sarah's guidance, the center developed innovative programs that brought together railway safety education and wildlife conservation. Interactive displays showed how the community had worked together during the rescue, while also teaching visitors about the delicate balance of mountain ecosystems. The old manual signal that had helped save lives stood as a centerpiece, carefully preserved as a testament to the importance of maintaining emergency systems. The success of her initial safety programs led to broader initiatives. Sarah began working with other mountain communities, helping them develop their own emergency response protocols. Her approach, which emphasized the importance of combining technical knowledge with environmental awareness, gained recognition from both railway companies and conservation groups. One of her most successful projects involved teaching young people about the intersection of human infrastructure and wildlife habitats. Using Smokey's story as a foundation, she helped students understand how communities could maintain safety while respecting and protecting their wild neighbors. The bear's remarkable behavior during the rescue served as a powerful example of the unexpected connections possible between humans and wildlife. Caleb Morgan frequently collaborated with Sarah at the center, adding his expertise in wildlife management to her railway knowledge. Together, they developed programs that helped visitors understand the complex relationship between human development and natural habitats. Their partnership embodied the spirit of cooperation that had made the rescue possible. The center also became a hub for community planning and environmental initiatives. Regular meetings brought together residents, business owners, and conservation experts to discuss sustainable development strategies. The story of baby Jonah and Smokey's intervention had taught them the value of considering both human needs and wildlife protection in their planning. Sarah's influence extended beyond the classroom. She worked with local businesses to implement environmentally conscious practices, helping them find ways to thrive while minimizing their impact on the mountain ecosystem. The hardware store that had provided materials for the emergency barrier now specialized in eco-friendly building supplies, setting an example for other businesses in the region. The Railway Trail project, which Sarah helped design, became a model for similar initiatives across the country. Educational stations along the path told not just the story of the rescue, but also the history of the railway and its role in shaping the mountain community. The trail served as a living classroom where visitors could learn about both human history and natural preservation. Through all these developments, Sarah maintained a special connection to the family who had adopted Jonah. The infant whose life they had all worked together to save was growing into a curious toddler, already showing an interest in the natural world around him. His presence in the community served as a constant reminder of what they had achieved through unity and determination. The scientific community continued to seek Sarah's input on projects studying the intersection of infrastructure and wildlife habitats. Her practical experience with both railway operations and wildlife interaction provided valuable insights for researchers developing new approaches to conservation and community safety. Smokey's occasional appearances near the center seemed to validate their efforts. The bear's successful rehabilitation and return to the wild while maintaining a peaceful coexistence with the community demonstrated the possibilities that opened up when humans approached wildlife with respect and understanding. As winter approached, Sarah found herself reflecting on how much had changed since that foggy morning. The quiet mountain town had transformed into a beacon of environmental stewardship and community cooperation. Her own transformation from a solitary retiree to a community leader had surprised her most of all. The center's programs continued to evolve, responding to new challenges and opportunities. Sarah's dedication to sharing knowledge and fostering understanding between humans and nature never wavered. She knew that every person who visited the center carried away a piece of Blue Ridge Hollow's story, spreading its message of hope and harmony to other communities. Through her work, Sarah helped ensure that the extraordinary events of that morning would continue to inspire and educate future generations. The legacy of their community's response to crisis had become a foundation for building a better, more sustainable future. The national media's fascination with Blue Ridge Hollow's story showed no signs of diminishing. Documentary crews regularly visited the mountain community, each finding new angles to explore. In the remarkable tale of a bear, a baby, and a town that had come together in a moment of crisis, their presence served to spread the message of hope and unity that had emerged from that foggy morning. Major environmental organizations began using Blue Ridge Hollow as a case study in successful wildlife-human interaction. Smokey's story in particular captured the imagination of conservationists worldwide. His background in the preservation program, combined with his protective behavior during the rescue, challenged traditional assumptions about rehabilitated wildlife. Sarah Harper found herself increasingly in demand as a speaker at environmental and railway safety conferences. Her unique perspective on the intersection of infrastructure safety and wildlife preservation resonated with audiences across the country. She shared not just the technical details of the rescue, but also the deeper lessons about community cooperation and environmental responsibility. The Community Environmental Center continued to evolve under Sarah's guidance. New exhibits were added regularly, each highlighting different aspects of the town's transformation. Interactive displays showed visitors how the emergency response had come together, while also teaching them about the delicate balance of mountain ecosystems. Caleb Morgan's ranger programs attracted attention from wildlife management professionals nationwide. His experience with Smokey provided valuable insights into how rehabilitated animals could successfully return to the wild while maintaining positive associations with human communities. Young rangers came from across the country to learn from his unique perspective. The story of baby Jonah touched hearts in unexpected ways. Child welfare organizations pointed to Blue Ridge Hollow as an example of how communities could unite to protect their most vulnerable members. The family who had welcomed him into their home became advocates for stronger community involvement in child protection. Environmental education programs based on Blue Ridge Hollow's experience began appearing in schools across the country. Teachers used the story to illustrate the importance of environmental stewardship and community cooperation. Students were particularly drawn to Smokey's role, his actions demonstrating the unexpected ways in which humans and wildlife could work together. Local businesses thrived as Blue Ridge Hollow became known for its unique approach to community development. The town's commitment to environmental stewardship attracted eco-conscious visitors and entrepreneurs. New businesses opened that centered around sustainable tourism and education, creating opportunities while preserving the area's natural beauty. The Railway Trail project exceeded all expectations, becoming a model for similar initiatives nationwide. Visitors walked the path where the rescue had taken place, learning about both railway history and wildlife conservation. The preserved sections of track and the old manual signal stood as powerful reminders of how past and present could work together. Research teams studying wildlife behavior frequently visited the area, hoping to understand the unique conditions that had made Smokey's intervention possible. Their findings contributed to new approaches in wildlife rehabilitation and release programs. The bear's success story became a cornerstone in discussions about human-wildlife coexistence. Sarah's safety education programs expanded beyond railway concerns to encompass broader environmental issues. She worked with other mountain communities, helping them develop emergency response protocols that considered both human safety and wildlife protection. Her approach emphasized the importance of maintaining emergency systems while respecting natural habitats. The coyotes that had been present during the rescue became part of a larger educational narrative about predator-prey relationships and ecosystem balance. Rather than being viewed as threats, they were now understood as essential members of the mountain's wildlife community. Their role in the story helped visitors understand the complexity of natural systems. The impact on younger generations proved particularly significant. Children growing up in Blue Ridge Hollow developed a deep appreciation for both community cooperation and environmental preservation. School programs integrated lessons from their town's experience, creating a new generation of environmentally conscious citizens. Urban planners studied how Blue Ridge Hollow had balanced development with environmental protection. Emergency response teams incorporated lessons about community mobilization and improvisation. Conservation groups pointed to the town as an example of successful human-wildlife coexistence. As the story continued to spread, more communities began adopting similar approaches to environmental stewardship and community safety. Blue Ridge Hollow had become more than just a small mountain town. It was now a symbol of hope, showing how crisis could forge stronger bonds between people and their environment. The transformation of Blue Ridge Hollow had profound effects on those most closely involved in the rescue. For Sarah Harper, the changes were particularly striking. The solitary woman who had once sought refuge in mountain isolation now found herself at the heart of a vibrant community movement, her expertise and leadership helping to shape the town's future. Her railway safety programs evolved into comprehensive educational initiatives that brought together technical knowledge and environmental awareness. The old signal station, which had played such a crucial role in the rescue, became a powerful teaching tool in her presentations. Sarah used it to demonstrate how maintaining older systems could prove vital in unexpected ways. Caleb Morgan's approach to his ranger duties underwent a similar evolution. His understanding of wildlife behavior, particularly regarding rehabilitated animals like Smokey, added new dimensions to forest management practices. His regular patrols now included educational components, sharing insights about the delicate balance between human safety and wildlife protection. The Community Environmental Center became a hub of activity under their combined leadership. Sarah and Caleb's collaboration brought together different aspects of mountain life: railway safety, wildlife conservation, and community preparation. Their programs helped visitors understand how these elements could work together harmoniously. Smokey's presence in the area remained a source of wonder and learning. Though he maintained his distance as a wild animal should, his occasional appearances near the railway trail seemed almost purposeful. Wildlife officials studying his behavior noted how he had successfully integrated his preservation program training with his natural instincts. The family who had welcomed Jonah into their home found themselves part of a larger narrative about community responsibility and care. The toddler's presence in Blue Ridge Hollow served as a living reminder of what the community had achieved through unity and determination. His growing interest in nature and wildlife delighted everyone who had been part of his rescue. Sarah's personal journey from isolation to community leadership inspired others. Her story of finding new purpose through crisis resonated with people facing their own challenges. The quiet strength she had shown during the rescue evolved into a gentle but firm guidance that helped shape the town's development. The hardware store owner, who had provided materials for the emergency barrier, transformed his business to focus on environmental sustainability. His example inspired other local businesses to consider their impact on the mountain ecosystem. The town's economic growth began to reflect its commitment to environmental stewardship. The railway trail project, which Sarah helped design, became a living memorial to the rescue. Educational stations along the path told not just the story of that morning, but also the ongoing tale of community transformation. Visitors learned about both the technical aspects of railway safety and the importance of wildlife conservation. Caleb's wildlife management approaches gained recognition from environmental organizations nationwide. His experience with Smokey provided valuable insights into how communities could coexist with rehabilitated wildlife. Young rangers sought his guidance in developing programs that balanced human safety with animal welfare. The coyotes that had been present during the rescue became part of the educational narrative. Rather than being viewed as antagonists, they were now understood as integral members of the mountain ecosystem. Their role in the story helped visitors grasp the complexity of natural relationships. Sarah's work with other mountain communities expanded, helping them develop their own emergency response protocols. She emphasized the importance of maintaining older infrastructure while adapting to new environmental challenges. Her approach became a model for communities facing similar situations. The scientific community's interest in Smokey's behavior led to new understanding of animal cognition and rehabilitation. Research teams studied how his preservation program training had influenced his protective response. Their findings contributed to improved wildlife rehabilitation practices. Local schools incorporated lessons from the rescue into their curriculum. Students learned about railway safety, wildlife conservation, and the importance of community cooperation. The story inspired a new generation to consider careers in environmental protection and community service. As winter approached, bringing a new season to the mountains, the personal transformations of those involved in the rescue continued to influence others. Their individual journeys had become part of a larger narrative about hope, unity, and the possibility of positive change emerging from challenging circumstances. National environmental organizations began adopting Blue Ridge Hollow's approach to wildlife conservation and community safety as a model for other regions. The unique combination of railway safety, wildlife preservation, and community cooperation caught the attention of policymakers and conservation experts across the country. Sarah Harper's influence extended far beyond the mountain community. Her expertise in combining technical infrastructure maintenance with environmental awareness led to speaking engagements at major conferences. She shared not just the story of the rescue, but the lasting lessons about how communities could work together with nature rather than against it. The Community Environmental Center's programs became templates for similar initiatives nationwide. Other towns, particularly those in areas where human development intersected with wildlife habitats, sought guidance in implementing their own versions of Sarah's safety and conservation programs. The center hosted regular workshops for visitors from across the country. Smokey's story captured particular interest from wildlife rehabilitation specialists. His successful reintegration into the wild, while maintaining positive associations with humans, challenged traditional assumptions about rehabilitated animals. Research teams studied the factors that had contributed to his extraordinary behavior during the rescue. The Railway Trail project evolved into a comprehensive educational experience. Visitors followed the path where the dramatic rescue had taken place, learning about railway history, wildlife conservation, and community cooperation. The preserved manual signal station stood as a powerful symbol of how old infrastructure could prove vital in unexpected ways. Caleb Morgan's wildlife management techniques gained recognition in professional circles. His experience with Smokey provided valuable insights into how communities could maintain safety while respecting wildlife. Rangers from other regions visited Blue Ridge Hollow to learn from his approach to human-wildlife coexistence. The story of baby Jonah continued to touch hearts nationwide. Child welfare organizations pointed to Blue Ridge Hollow's response as an example of community responsibility in action. The town's unified effort to protect a vulnerable infant inspired other communities to strengthen their own support systems. Environmental education programs based on Blue Ridge Hollow's experience began appearing in schools across the country. Teachers used the story to illustrate the importance of environmental stewardship and community cooperation. Students were particularly drawn to Smokey's role, his actions demonstrating the unexpected ways in which humans and wildlife could work together. Local businesses in Blue Ridge Hollow thrived as the town became known for its unique approach to sustainable development. The hardware store's transformation into an eco-friendly supplier inspired similar changes in other communities. The town's economic success showed how environmental responsibility could go hand in hand with business growth. Research teams studying wildlife behavior frequently visited the area, hoping to understand the unique conditions that had made Smokey's intervention possible. Their findings contributed to new approaches in wildlife rehabilitation and release programs. The bear's success story became a cornerstone in discussions about human-wildlife coexistence. Sarah's safety education programs expanded beyond railway concerns to encompass broader environmental issues. She worked with other mountain communities, helping them develop emergency response protocols that considered both human safety and wildlife protection. Her approach emphasized the importance of maintaining emergency systems while respecting natural habitats. The impact of Blue Ridge Hollow's story reached into unexpected areas. Urban planners studied how the town had balanced development with environmental protection. Emergency response teams incorporated lessons about community mobilization and improvisation. Conservation groups pointed to the town as a model of successful human-wildlife coexistence. Young people growing up in Blue Ridge Hollow developed a deep appreciation for both community cooperation and environmental preservation. School programs integrated lessons from their town's experience, creating a new generation of environmentally conscious citizens. Many expressed interest in careers related to wildlife conservation and community service. The scientific community's continued interest in Smokey's behavior led to new understanding of animal cognition and rehabilitation. Research papers discussed how his preservation program training had influenced his protective response. Their findings contributed to improved wildlife rehabilitation practices across the country. As the movement grew, more communities began adopting similar approaches to environmental stewardship and community safety. Blue Ridge Hollow had become more than just a small mountain town. It was now a symbol of hope, showing how crisis could forge stronger bonds between people and their environment. The impact of Blue Ridge Hollow's transformation continued to ripple outward, inspiring innovative approaches to community development and environmental protection. What had begun as a response to an emergency had evolved into a comprehensive model for sustainable living, drawing attention from environmental experts and community planners worldwide. Sarah Harper's Railway Safety Program expanded into a broader initiative for sustainable infrastructure development. She worked with communities across the country, helping them identify ways to maintain crucial systems while minimizing environmental impact. Her approach emphasized the importance of preserving older infrastructure that could prove valuable in unexpected ways. The Community Environmental Center became a hub for research and innovation in sustainable practices. New exhibits demonstrated how traditional knowledge could combine with modern environmental science to create effective solutions. The center's programs highlighted the successful integration of human needs with wildlife protection. Smokey's ongoing presence in the area provided continuous opportunities for learning. Wildlife researchers studied how his behavior had evolved since the rescue, noting the delicate balance he maintained between wild instincts and his previous human interaction. His success story influenced wildlife rehabilitation programs nationwide. The Railway Trail project expanded to include new educational elements about sustainable development. Visitors learned not just about the dramatic rescue, but also about how communities could work with nature rather than against it. The trail became a living classroom for environmental education and community cooperation. Caleb Morgan's wildlife management approach gained recognition as a model for other communities facing similar challenges. His experience with Smokey demonstrated how understanding animal behavior could lead to more effective conservation strategies. Rangers from across the country sought his guidance in developing their own programs. The story of baby Jonah continued to inspire community initiatives nationwide. The family who had welcomed him demonstrated how individual actions could spark broader social change. Their experience encouraged other communities to strengthen their support systems for vulnerable members. Local businesses in Blue Ridge Hollow thrived under their new commitment to environmental responsibility. The hardware store's transformation into an eco-friendly supplier set an example for other businesses in the region. Their success showed how environmental stewardship could support economic growth. Sarah's work with other mountain communities expanded to include comprehensive planning for sustainable development. She helped them identify ways to maintain safety while preserving natural habitats. Her expertise in combining technical knowledge with environmental awareness proved invaluable. The scientific community's interest in Blue Ridge Hollow led to new research in community-based conservation. Studies examined how the town had successfully integrated environmental protection with human needs. Their findings contributed to improved approaches to sustainable development. Young people in the community took active roles in environmental initiatives. School programs encouraged students to develop their own projects for sustainable living. Many expressed interest in careers that would allow them to continue the work begun in their hometown. The impact on wildlife conservation extended beyond Smoky's story. The town's approach to managing human-wildlife interaction became a model for other communities. Their success demonstrated how respect for natural systems could lead to peaceful coexistence. Environmental organizations used Blue Ridge Hollow's experience to promote new approaches to conservation. The town's story showed how crisis could lead to positive transformation. Their example inspired other communities to take proactive steps toward sustainability. The agricultural community around Blue Ridge Hollow began adopting more sustainable practices. Farmers worked with environmental experts to develop methods that protected both their livelihoods and the natural environment. Their efforts showed how traditional farming could adapt to modern environmental challenges. As winter approached, bringing new challenges to the mountain community, the commitment to sustainable development remained strong. Blue Ridge Hollow had become more than just a success story. It was now a living laboratory for creating a more sustainable future. The story of Blue Ridge Hollow became deeply woven into the fabric of the community's identity. Children growing up in the mountain town absorbed its lessons naturally, learning from an early age about the delicate balance between human needs and environmental preservation. The rescue that had brought their community together continued to inspire new generations. The Community Environmental Center evolved into a world-class facility for environmental education. Under Sarah Harper's guidance, it developed programs that connected railway safety, wildlife conservation, and community cooperation. Visitors from around the globe came to learn how a small mountain town had transformed crisis into opportunity. Sarah's influence extended far beyond technical training. Her personal journey from solitude to community leadership resonated with people facing their own challenges. She became a mentor to young professionals interested in combining infrastructure development with environmental protection, sharing not just knowledge but wisdom gained through experience. Smoky's legacy lived on through the wildlife preservation programs he had inspired. Though he remained wild, his occasional appearances near the railway trail reminded everyone of the extraordinary connection between humans and wildlife that had made the rescue possible. Research teams continued to study the long-term effects of his successful rehabilitation. The Railway Trail project expanded to include interactive exhibits about sustainable development. Walking the path where the rescue had taken place, visitors learned about the importance of maintaining both infrastructure and natural habitats. The preserved manual signal station stood as a symbol of how past and present could work together harmoniously. Caleb Morgan's wildlife management techniques became standard practice in similar communities. His experience with Smoky provided valuable insights into how humans and wildlife could coexist safely. Young rangers trained under his guidance, learning to approach conservation with both practical skill and deep respect for nature. The story of baby Jonah touched new hearts as each generation learned about the rescue. Now a growing child, he represented hope and the possibility of positive change emerging from challenging circumstances. His presence in the community served as a living reminder of what they had achieved through unity. Local businesses continued to thrive under their commitment to environmental responsibility. The hardware store's transformation inspired similar changes throughout the region. New enterprises opened with sustainability built into their business models, proving that economic success and environmental protection could go hand in hand. Sarah's work with other communities expanded to include long-term planning for sustainable development. She helped them identify ways to maintain safety while preserving natural habitats. Her approach emphasized the importance of community cooperation in achieving environmental goals. The scientific community's ongoing interest in Blue Ridge Hollow led to new understanding of community-based conservation. Research teams studied how the town had maintained its commitment to sustainability over time. Their findings contributed to improved approaches to environmental protection worldwide. Young people in the community took leadership roles in environmental initiatives. School programs encouraged students to develop innovative solutions to conservation challenges. Many pursued careers in environmental science, wildlife management, and community development, carrying Blue Ridge Hollow's lessons to new places. The impact on wildlife conservation extended beyond the immediate area. Other communities adopted Blue Ridge Hollow's approach to managing human-wildlife interaction. Their success demonstrated how respect for natural systems could create lasting positive change. Environmental organizations continued to use Blue Ridge Hollow's experience as a model for sustainable development. The town's story showed how communities could work together to protect both human interests and natural habitats. Their example inspired others to take proactive steps toward environmental responsibility. The agricultural community around Blue Ridge Hollow maintained its commitment to sustainable practices. Farmers worked with environmental experts to refine methods that protected both their livelihoods and the natural environment. Their efforts showed how traditional activities could adapt to modern environmental challenges. As seasons changed in the mountains, Blue Ridge Hollow's legacy continued to grow. The town had become more than just a success story. It was a living example of how communities could create positive change that lasted for generations. The transformation of Blue Ridge Hollow from a quiet mountain town into a beacon of environmental stewardship and community cooperation continued to inspire hope across the nation. The story of a bear's protective instinct, a ranger's dedication, and a community's swift response became a powerful testament to the possibilities that emerge when humans and nature work in harmony. Sarah Harper's railway safety programs evolved into comprehensive initiatives that touched communities far beyond the Blue Ridge Mountains. Her approach to combining technical expertise with environmental awareness influenced infrastructure development nationwide. The lessons learned from that foggy morning continued to shape how communities approached both emergency preparedness and environmental protection. The Community Environmental Center flourished under the collaborative leadership of Sarah and Caleb Morgan. Their programs demonstrated how traditional knowledge could blend with modern conservation practices to create effective solutions for contemporary challenges. Visitors left with not just information, but inspiration to create positive change in their own communities. Smokey's presence in the area remained a source of wonder and learning. Though he maintained his distance as a wild animal should, his successful rehabilitation and protective actions during the rescue continued to influence wildlife management practices. His story challenged conventional wisdom about the relationship between humans and wildlife. The Railway Trail Project became a living museum of community transformation. Walking the path where the rescue had taken place, visitors experienced firsthand how crisis had led to positive change. The preserved manual signal station stood as a reminder of how past infrastructure could serve present needs in unexpected ways. Caleb's wildlife management approach gained recognition as a model for other communities facing similar challenges. His experience with Smokey demonstrated how understanding animal behavior could lead to more effective conservation strategies. Rangers from across the country sought his guidance in developing their own programs. The story of baby Jonah continued to touch hearts and inspire action. The family who had welcomed him found themselves at the center of initiatives promoting community responsibility and care. Their experience showed how individual actions could spark broader social change. Local businesses thrived under their commitment to environmental responsibility. The hardware store's transformation into an eco-friendly supplier set an example for other businesses in the region. Their success proved that economic growth and environmental stewardship could work together harmoniously. Sarah's work with other mountain communities expanded to include comprehensive planning for sustainable development. She helped them identify ways to maintain safety while preserving natural habitats. Her expertise in combining technical knowledge with environmental awareness proved invaluable. The scientific community's interest in Blue Ridge Hollow led to new research in community-based conservation. Studies examined how the town had successfully integrated environmental protection with human needs. Their findings contributed to improved approaches to sustainable development worldwide. Young people in the community took active roles in environmental initiatives. School programs encouraged students to develop their own projects for sustainable living. Many expressed interest in careers that would allow them to continue the work begun in their hometown. The impact on wildlife conservation extended beyond Smoky's story. The town's approach to managing human-wildlife interaction became a model for other communities. Their success demonstrated how respect for natural systems could lead to peaceful coexistence. Environmental organizations used Blue Ridge Hollow's experience to promote new approaches to conservation. The town's story showed how crisis could lead to positive transformation. Their example inspired other communities to take proactive steps toward sustainability. The agricultural community around Blue Ridge Hollow continued adopting more sustainable practices. Farmers worked with environmental experts to develop methods that protected both their livelihoods and the natural environment. Their efforts showed how traditional farming could adapt to modern environmental challenges. As the seasons changed in the mountains, bringing new challenges and opportunities, Blue Ridge Hollow's commitment to sustainable development remained strong. The town had become more than just a success story. It was a living example of how communities could create positive change that lasted for generations. The passage of time only strengthened Blue Ridge Hollow's commitment to the principles that had emerged from their extraordinary experience. The community's response to that foggy morning's crisis had created lasting bonds between neighbors and a deeper appreciation for their natural environment. Sarah Harper's influence continued to grow through the Community Environmental Center. Her programs bridged the gap between infrastructure safety and environmental preservation, showing how technical expertise could work in harmony with nature. The old signal station that had helped save lives became a powerful teaching tool, demonstrating how maintaining older systems could prove vital in unexpected ways. Caleb Morgan's wildlife management programs flourished, drawing professionals from across the country, eager to learn from his experience. His work with Smoky had shown how understanding animal behavior could lead to more effective conservation strategies. The relationship between the ranger and the rehabilitated bear had challenged traditional assumptions about wildlife management. The Railway Trail project evolved into a comprehensive educational experience. Visitors walked the path where the rescue had taken place, learning about both railway history and wildlife conservation. The trail served as a living classroom where the story of their community's transformation inspired others to consider their own relationship with the natural world. Smoky's legacy extended far beyond Blue Ridge Hollow. His protective behavior during the rescue continued to influence wildlife rehabilitation programs nationwide. Research teams studied how his preservation program training had created an unprecedented bridge between wild instincts and human interaction. The story of baby Jonah remained a powerful symbol of hope and community unity. His presence in Blue Ridge Hollow reminded everyone of what they had achieved through cooperation and determination. The family who had welcomed him into their home became advocates for stronger community involvement in protecting vulnerable members. Local businesses demonstrated how environmental responsibility could support economic growth. The hardware store's transformation into an eco-friendly supplier inspired similar changes throughout the region. New enterprises opened with sustainability built into their business models, proving that success and environmental protection could work hand in hand. The scientific community's continued interest in Blue Ridge Hollow led to new understanding of community-based conservation. Research papers discussed how the town had maintained its commitment to sustainability over time. Their findings contributed to improved approaches to environmental protection worldwide. Young people growing up in Blue Ridge Hollow absorbed the lessons of their community's experience naturally. School programs encouraged students to develop innovative solutions to conservation challenges. Many pursued careers in environmental science, wildlife management, and community development, carrying Blue Ridge Hollow's lessons to new places. The impact on wildlife conservation extended beyond the immediate area. Other communities adopted Blue Ridge Hollow's approach to managing human-wildlife interaction. Their success demonstrated how respect for natural systems could create lasting positive change for everyone involved. Environmental organizations continued to use Blue Ridge Hollow's experience as a model for sustainable development. The town's story showed how communities could work together to protect both human interests and natural habitats. Their example inspired others to take proactive steps toward environmental responsibility. The agricultural community around Blue Ridge Hollow maintained its commitment to sustainable practices. Farmers worked with environmental experts to refine methods that protected both their livelihoods and the natural environment. Their efforts showed how traditional activities could adapt to modern environmental challenges. Sarah's work with other mountain communities expanded to include long-term planning for sustainable development. She helped them identify ways to maintain safety while preserving natural habitats. Her approach emphasized the importance of community cooperation in achieving environmental goals. The center's programs continued to evolve, responding to new challenges and opportunities. Both Sarah and Caleb remained dedicated to sharing knowledge and fostering understanding between humans and nature. They knew that every visitor carried away a piece of Blue Ridge Hollow's story, spreading its message of hope and harmony to other communities. As the seasons changed in the mountains, bringing new challenges and opportunities, Blue Ridge Hollow's commitment to sustainable development remained strong. The town had become more than just a success story. It was a living example of how communities could create positive change that lasted for generations. Blue Ridge Hollow's transformation from a quiet mountain town into a national symbol of environmental harmony and community cooperation became a story that continued to inspire generations. The events of that foggy morning, when a bear named Smokey helped protect an abandoned infant near a railway line, had sparked changes that reached far beyond the mountain valleys. Sarah Harper's railway safety and environmental programs touched communities across the nation. Her unique approach to combining infrastructure maintenance with wildlife preservation created a new standard for community development. The Community Environmental Center she helped establish became a beacon of hope, showing how crisis could lead to positive, lasting change. Caleb Morgan's wildlife management techniques revolutionized how communities approached their relationship with nature. His experience with Smokey demonstrated that respect and understanding could bridge the gap between human needs and wildlife preservation. The success of their programs proved that communities could thrive while protecting their natural environment. The Railway Trail project stood as a living monument to their achievement. Visitors from around the world walked the path where Smokey had shown extraordinary protective instincts toward baby Jonah. Each step along the trail told part of their story, from the old signal station that had helped prevent disaster to the spots where community members had worked together to save lives. Smokey's presence in the area remained a source of wonder and learning. Though he maintained his distance as a wild animal should, his occasional appearances near the trail reminded everyone of the extraordinary connection between humans and wildlife that had made the rescue possible. His story continued to influence wildlife rehabilitation programs nationwide. The story of baby Jonah touched hearts across generations. His presence in the community served as a living reminder of what could be achieved through unity and determination. The family who had welcomed him into their home became advocates for stronger community involvement in protecting vulnerable members of society. Local businesses thrived under their commitment to environmental responsibility. The hardware store's transformation into an eco-friendly supplier inspired similar changes throughout the region. New enterprises opened with sustainability built into their business models, proving that economic success and environmental protection could work hand in hand. The scientific community's ongoing interest in Blue Ridge Hollow led to new understanding of community-based conservation. Research teams studied how the town had maintained its commitment to sustainability over time. Their findings contributed to improved approaches to environmental protection worldwide. Young people in the community took active roles in environmental initiatives. School programs encouraged students to develop their own projects for sustainable living. Many pursued careers in environmental science, wildlife management, and community development, carrying Blue Ridge Hollow's lessons to new places. The impact on wildlife conservation extended beyond the immediate area. Other communities adopted Blue Ridge Hollow's approach to managing human-wildlife interaction. Their success demonstrated how respect for natural systems could create lasting positive change for everyone involved. Environmental organizations continued to use Blue Ridge Hollow's experience as a model for sustainable development. The town's story showed how communities could work together to protect both human interests and natural habitats. Their example inspired others to take proactive steps toward environmental responsibility. As seasons changed in the mountains, bringing new challenges and opportunities, Blue Ridge Hollow's commitment to sustainable development remained strong. The town had become more than just a success story. It was a living example of how communities could create positive change that lasted for generations. In the end, the legacy of Blue Ridge Hollow proved that the most powerful changes often begin with unexpected moments of connection. The story of a bear's protective instinct, a community's swift response, and a child's salvation had grown into something far greater than anyone could have imagined on that foggy morning when Smokey first heard a baby's cry. The tale of Blue Ridge Hollow continues to inspire, reminding us that when communities work together in harmony with nature, extraordinary things are possible. As the sun sets behind the ancient peaks of the Blue Ridge Mountains, the echo of their story carries forward, touching hearts and changing lives for generations to come. Fim Da Historia. Dear listeners, we hope the extraordinary tale of Blue Ridge Hollow has touched your hearts as deeply as it has touched the lives of all those involved. This remarkable story of unity, courage, and the unexpected bonds between humans and nature shows us what's possible when we work together in harmony with our environment. We've created a special playlist featuring similar inspiring stories about community transformation and environmental preservation. You'll find it by clicking the link to your left. If this story moved you, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Every day we bring you unique narratives that explore the complexity and beauty of life in our natural world. Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear how this story resonated with you. Have you witnessed similar examples of community unity or unexpected connections between humans and wildlife? Your experiences and perspectives add to the ongoing conversation about environmental preservation and community cooperation. Join us tomorrow for another powerful story that reminds us of the extraordinary possibilities that emerge when we open our hearts to connection and work together for positive change. Together, we can create more stories of hope, unity, and harmony with nature.